안녕하세요, 여러분.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Byun SungChul. Nice to meet you all. First of all, I am very honored to deliver this keynote speech on referee structure and education. Let me introduce myself. From 1999, I was one of the StarCraft players in Korea, and from 2004, I was the head coach for a team. From 2010, for 5 years, I worked for IESF, and as the team leader of Game Technique, I was in charge of running the World Esports League for 5 years. Currently, I am the Vice President of Referee Committee of Korea Esports Association and running the Match Lab that I founded in 2016, servicing Chat2GG, an esports education platform. Traditional sports after the Industrial Revolution began with the bourgeois culture that rapidly grew in the 19th century thanks to the Industrial Revolution. This new class had economic and temporal freedom, and they could bring the leisure into their lives which had been dominated by the aristocrats. In the case of esports, with the rapid advancement of the internet, there came many games since 1998 which enabled players to compete with each other via the network. Before this, even those who were good at games did not know their rankings or level of skills. But with the ladder of StarCraft or MSN Gaming Zone, players could find out where they stood in terms of gaming skills. In Korea, thanks to the rapid growth of the internet, fast access to the internet was possible, and with the internet cafe, StarCraft gained huge popularity. This popularity of StarCraft led to lots of contests and competitions from neighborhood competition to national and even international level competitions. In the early days, game operators refereed the games, but to resolve disputes between players fast, rule books were made, and referees became necessary to run the games based on such rule books. Then, how referees of traditional sports and esports differ. The biggest difference is that in the case of esports, all the activities of competition take place in the virtual electronic world. In general, electronic devices are comprised of hardware, software, network, and peripherals. Esports referees should possess the knowledge and expertise in electronic devices. Then, what could be the biggest challenge to esports referees? Personally, I believe that referees of traditional sports do not have to update their knowledge on the rules of the game that often. Once they got acquainted with that, for example, rules of baseball or soccer now are not that much different from those of 5 years ago. Even if they change, the changes are minor. But in the case of esports, when one esport loses its popularity, the league for that esport will be gone. Then the referee of that game will have to study the rules of other games from the scratch. In addition, the nature of software has it that bugs, new characters, and new maps are updated very often, so the referees have to continuously update their knowledge. If the game companies make perfect games, so it is not necessary to determine who wins and who loses, do we still need referees? I think, even if so, we do. There should be somebody to check if the players arrived on time, if the players engaged in violent words or acts, to resolve any issues of players or teams, to see if somebody gets injured during the game, and to maintain the order in the stadium. These are the areas where the roles of referees should come in. Then, let's see how referees in Korea are structured. In Korea, roles of referees of Korea Esports Association are as follows. In order to ensure that referees can follow the rules of the game, their independence and discretion are guaranteed. Second, they help protect and enhance the right of referees. Thirdly, the association trains, registers, and manages the referees. In Korea, referees are classified into three categories. Let me explain a little bit more details about these. In Korea, for the third grade referees, which are the lowest, whereas the first grade referees are the highest ones. For the third grade referees, they have to be Korean nationals over 18 years old. Once you gain the license of third grade referees, then these referees can referee the amateur and pro competitions, or they can also referee unofficial games. What about the second grade referees? How can you be a second grade referees? The second grade referees test can be only taken by those who possess the license of third grade referees. And you have to have more than 30 games, refereed more than 30 games a year. Second grade referees can referee professional competitions and be chief referees of amateur competitions. How can you be a first grade referee? Of course, you should be the second grade referee to be eligible to take the test for the first grade referees. So you should have refereed more than 200 games in 2 years to be able to take the test. And once you have the license of the third grade referees, you can referee international competitions and be chief referee of professional competitions, or instructors of referee education. Usually, first grade referees participate in IESF referee programs recommended by the National Level Association. As they have ample experience of refereeing many games, international referees should have the English speaking ability, and they are trained with referee cases of international matches and field training to be appointed international referee. What about technical commissioners? IESF divides the technical commissioners into three groups. First is technical delegate, who holds the final right on every technical aspect. With other technical commissioners and the federation, based on the expert knowledge, they are responsible for developing various techniques and prescribe the regulations. Second is a jury. A jury should supervise operation of matches and resolve disputes among member states. Third is international referee. They should run matches pursuant to the IESF regulations. And they are the chief referees in international matches. Usually they are appointed by the recommendation of member states. They should have completed the IESF international referee training. We will have to further divide roles and responsibility of technical commissioners going forward. In addition, we have to see what to study and what kind of experience we should have to become higher ranking technical commissioners, from national referees to international referee, jury, and technical delegate. Also, referee trainers or educators to train referees, referee supervisors to judge referees, and officers responsible for facilities and other types of technical members are also necessary, and it needs to be researched what roles should be played, why we should need them. Then what should esports referees learn? First is fairness. It is the most important virtue that a referee should have. Referees who make biased judgment will be harshly criticized. Referees at any occasion should not be swayed by personal feelings. That's their responsibility, even for their favorite teams or players. Referees should treat every player and team fairly and equitably, which means that they should pay attention to the interest of all the players. However, it is not easy to be fair because fairness itself requires sophisticated expertise. The issue of fairness occurs in a tricky situation. When a foul play is evident, it is not a big deal. But when the interests of both sides sharply clash, that's a tricky situation. For example, let's say player A was close to win, but suddenly player B was disconnected due to a network issue and player B loses the game without any proof to determine the exact condition of the computer of player B. The situation will be very tricky. Second, a referee should have the ability to determine the situation in emergency. A player might develop sudden seizure or suddenly becomes unconscious, or there may be bench clearing brawl. Also, as is the case with a soccer match sometimes, a spectator may intrude the player's box. All of this kind of case should be simulated and prepared, and there should be a manual or guideline how to deal with such cases prepared by the organizing committee of the event. A referee should learn the manual and be trained to handle each situation. Third, a referee should have an extensive level of knowledge on the game that he referees. This requires the experience of playing the game, and he also has to know how to create a room at an observer mode and know the in-game properties like maps, items, and champions. In addition, it would be better if he understands what are the things that are negatively affecting the gameplay. For instance, window updates can be done in advance to prevent the alarm to go off during a game, or it needs to be checked if there is any unnecessary software installed on the machine. Fourth, a referee should have a good understanding on various dispute cases regarding in-game bugs or rules. During a match, a referee should oversee and determine the game. If a referee is ignorant of the bugs or dispute cases of the game, players, teams, or media may criticize the referee, and even the qualification of the referee may be questioned. Fifth, a referee should be fully aware of their event rules. If a referee comes to the match after reviewing the rules just a couple of times, and if there is a dispute case during the game, he will have to look the case up in the rule book, which may take long. He should know where to look up in the rule book for which case, if not fully memorize the rule book. A small competition may not have thick rule book, so it will not be too difficult, but a large event may have a rule book of tens of pages or even more than 100 pages. Taking a referee to get himself fully acquainted with the rule book. Furthermore, if it gets wrong with the competition schedule or mode, it could be detrimental. So this kind of situation should be prevented. In 2014, in World Championship held in Azerbaijan, the referee was not fully aware of how to run the competition, which led to a big problem. The rule was 3 wins out of 5, but the referee mistook it to be 4 wins out of 7 instead. Player A had first 3 wins, and the player B had 4 wins after that, and the referee declared that player B won the match. But actually it was 3 wins out of 5, so actually player A should have been the winner of the match. If this kind of situation arises, the referee and the organizer of the event will be in trouble. As such, to prevent this kind of situation, the referee should be fully acquainted with the rules. Sixth is how to run the matches. Round robin, single elimination, and double elimination are most commonly used method, and sometimes Swiss or free fall is used. Most commonly used is round robin first and then single elimination. And in fight games, double elimination is most commonly used. In a game like Battlegrounds, where the ranking and number of kills will determine the score, free fall is commonly used. Seventh is documentation ability. In big events, match rulebook, match manual, match method, and score record, and others are given to referees by the organizers so that referees should know and document them. Sometimes there may not be organizing committees, and in that case, referees should document necessary documents to utilize in the matches. It may not be easy in the beginning, but the skill can be developed as they do documentation, and that can be used as one of the necessary skills to become higher grade referees. In some cases, you can work at ESA Game A or esports team or organizing committees. Then, what kind of role and preparations are necessary for a referee during the actual match? Before the match, he should sit down with the organizing committee, technical delegates, and control tower to check the necessary roles and responsibility, to check out the surroundings and equipment so that players can play games without difficulties. Also, he needs to check if the players arrived on time at the arena. Sometimes it is necessary to check screens, audio, and lighting so that athletes can concentrate on matches. There once was a case where the lighting was too strong that hindered eyesight of players, so that the match had to be halted. If that kind of thing happens, you get lots of complaints, so you should check this kind of things beforehand. Sometimes a referee should inspect people's belongings and encourage people to sit down. During the match, he should keep the position and the role and monitor the game to prevent any unexpected situation. For example, some spectators rooted for the players too loudly, shaking the minds of the opposing players. When that happened, the referee ordered the spectators to get out of the arena. Flashlights should not be popped during a match, but that once happened by a reporter, hampering the match. After the match, sometimes it is necessary to save the replay, record any particularities on the record book. He should also get the result of the matches signed by the both teams or players so that there is no issues later on. He should also check if there is anything missing and prepare for the next match. A referee does not usually get interviews with the media, but sometimes he is asked to do so. He can accept the interview to the extent that it does not do any harm to the player or the country. So far I talked about why we need referees, what roles they play and how they should be trained. Thank you for your attention. And if you have any question, please feel free to post the question through the association. Thank you.